I think the big event for this evening is organizing for community. And basically, it's about the Westchester Social Forum, and it's WESPAC Foundation and Nada Khader, who are actually the organizers of this forum. And at this point, I think it's probably best I will turn it over to Nada. And it's my great pleasure to have known her for a good many years at this point. But I think I will defer to her to sort of set up, how it was arranged and everything, and then introduce the people that were actually active at the forum on behalf of Proud. So I will turn the floor over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, John. And thank you to the Proud Alliance for inviting us to present this evening. I've been a member of the Proud Alliance since its inception, and very happy and pleased to be part of the Proud Network. So my name is Nada, as John said. I have been directing WESPAC, which stands for Westchester People's Action Coalition. WESPAC is a 50-year-old Center for Social Justice, for Peace, for progressive social change. We've been operating in Westchester County, New York. It's the county just north of the Bronx. There are 1 million people who live here. Our members work on a whole range of racial, environmental, social justice issues, economic justice issues as well. So my intention with inviting members of the Proud Alliance committee, the outreach, I'm part of the outreach committee of Proud Alliance, and we were sort of strategizing, how do we introduce Proud to the public? And I had mentioned that I'm organizing a social justice gathering in Westchester County in April, and would be very happy to have members of Proud Alliance come and table and be part of a workshop as well. So the Westchester Social Forum, we were inspired. We've been organizing these social forums since the first 2 United States social forums. I don't know if any of you attended, but first one was 2007 in Atlanta, Georgia. The second one, I believe it was 2009 or 2010 in Detroit, Michigan. And both of these gatherings were enormously inspiring for me. You're basically converging with thousands and thousands of like-minded progressive people. You're attending an opening march, an opening plenary session, and breakout sessions on topics that are of interest to you. So we brought that back to Westchester County, and ever since we've been organizing our own version of, a Westchester Social Forum. So the format is you start with a people's parade or a people's march, and then you come in for an opening plenary session, and then there are breakout sessions, and then you have a closing. That's basically the outline for these social forum gatherings. And by the way, the World Social Forum started in either 2000 or 2001 in the Global South, in Brazil, in response to the World Economic Forum that meets regularly. Basically, I think it's the, a handful of the richest nations on the earth coming together and making decisions that impact the billions and billions of people who live on planet Earth. And so people in the Global South said, well, wait a minute, why should these rich countries have the power and the ability to make policies that affect all of us without our input? The grassroots wants to be part of the decision-making. And that was basically the launch of the World Social Forum in Brazil in 2000. And then this sort of solidarity economy spread all over, and people have been implementing it in their local areas. This year, I organized the social forum with students who are part of a class at a local college, Sarah Lawrence College. The name of the course was All Politics is Local. And the professor had asked me if I would be featured as part of the curriculum. And I said I'd be happy to. And I identified a handful of students from the class who wanted to work on putting together this year's Westchester Social Forum. And we had about 200 people attend. We had an opening march. You'll get to see some photos. Alex managed to, I invited him to start off the opening plenary session with Bhavanam Kevalam Kirtan, which is a sacred mantra that was given by the founder of Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar. And then while they're here, he gave a wonderful land acknowledgement that we also managed to record. There were breakout sessions, and Wilder will talk about the proud participation in the breakout session. And then we had a closing ceremony with a folkloric dance troupe. So what I'd like to do is I'll just show you a 3-minute video summary. I did hire a videographer to come and put together a, sort of a summary, a video summary of the social forum. This year, because of what's happening in Israel, Palestine, and Gaza specifically, Palestine was a huge issue at the social forum, and of course continues to be for social justice circles. And I think it's important for Proutists to engage with the subject matter in ways that remain true to Prout values, and not shy away from Israel-Palestine because it's such a controversial, emotional, difficult subject. I think we need to practice our skills of engaging with people, even if the subject matter is difficult for us and emotional for us if we're directly impacted by the issue. I still think that organizationally it's important to engage, especially when public interest is so high in this issue. And it actually could give us a good opportunity to project the name Prout and to get Prout recognition out there. So without further ado, I will share my screen. We are gathered here today for the urgency of this moment that we must replace capitalism with a benevolent system that keeps all people healthy and happy with their needs met.
So that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite, you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope, let it be a tale.
When do we want it? Now!
After 400 years of oppression, the power and wisdom of our peoples still remains.
Recently, seen on social media, Free Congo as a hashtag. Why does Congo matter? Why Free Congo? Congo needs to be free from the exploitation.
By organizing our communities, by mobilizing, obviously the past 6 months against the genocide on Gaza.
Give somebody some time back for going to school, for going to college, for taking courses. People want places safer.
Y con 2 niños cuesta. Trabajé en salón de belleza, en restaurantes, vendiendo comida, eso, pero alguien me respondía. Claro, porque no te metes a trabajar en una cooperativa.
Bordering Rwanda, Uganda, Burundi. The entire country is not in conflict. So.
The reason why I got into food justice is because I grew up in a food desert, and while in prison, I realized that prisons replicated the same thing.
When I say people power, what's the first thing that maybe comes to your mind? You can just shout it out.
Lobbies.
Lobbying is a big part of it, yeah.
much. I thank you also.
Okay, I will pass it off to Wilder.
Thank you, Nada, and thank you, Proud Alliance, for hosting, and everyone for being here. My name is Wilder. Let's see, I will share a presentation here. Community organizing. Is everyone able to see the first slide? Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, so I would love to talk about the community organizing at the WESPAC Social Forum and talk a little bit about the presentation that I gave about Proud and the progressive utilization theory, and also offer some reflections on strategies and approaches for organizing around systems change. So as we saw in the video, it was really multidisciplinary, multicultural of the day. And we began with poetry, music, kirtan, as mentioned. And you might ask, like, what, why we began with these things. And I think my experience was that they really helped build a sense of common ground. People got to speak from their culture, and we got to see our common values together. And I think that that's a really good way to begin any type of organizing work. And so as part of the beginning, there was a land acknowledgement, and I shared this is an excerpt from the reading that I helped share, and I'll just read it. So the land we rest on today is home of the Lenape peoples. They've lived, worked, and raised families here for thousands of years. Like many indigenous communities, they developed a thriving social system based on collective welfare, gender equity, and sacred relationship with all creation. And I'll share the rest of the talk as well, because there was a Thanksgiving address as well. And yeah, I feel like this is just another example of being able to, this multicultural experience that the social forum is. And so I really appreciate that. Then we had this parade, as mentioned, and there was all of the organizations had their banner, and this is a newly designed Proud Progressive Utilization banner. And here's photos from the parade. And it was a simple action, but it was really symbolic because it felt like we were all moving together in the same direction as one movement. So it was just, that really was a good way to begin as well, to start to build, cohesion as a group, as a movement. Here are some of the proudest in attendance, and everyone, yeah. So here, and you can see the Proud table, and we had many materials that were there. One of them that helped generate a lot of conversation was this one, a poster, Imagining Economic Systems Change. And the visuals are just a really good way to begin conversation. And I would just mention in passing the three-tiered economy visual was brought to a lot of people's attention. So yeah, I think visuals are really helpful. We also created some flyers. This is a brochure about how Proud works, and we pulled from many resources, so you may recognize some of your writing there. And this was just a great way to, generate conversation, answer questions. And what we realized is that most people were agreeing with, all the values that we were talking about. Oh, so here's a photo of the group towards the conclusion. This is maybe about a third of everyone. And okay, yeah, and can you spot the proudest? We have, well, there's Mark, Aim, and Nada are there holding the banner. And it just felt, you know, yeah, it just felt like as a whole, all these different organizations were all working together in one movement. And so that I just felt really good. I gave a talk about cooperatives with the local food systems and food justice workshop. And I also shared a film about co-ops from Maine, a bunch of interviews. And I also talked about a little bit about Seedlings for Sovereignty, which was a food access program in Hudson Valley with Proud Alliance. And so I can share a short excerpt from the talk. There was like a panel, and you know, everyone gave a talk, and then we were able to have a discussion. So after talking with all the co-ops, when I saw like the co-op business model, it wasn't a traditional business of like just making profit. You know, it wasn't just about any community organization. They were service. This is a service mission, and the needs of the community were able to be prioritized because the businesses were run democratic by the people. So I got really interested in co-ops and local food, and 2022 worked near Hudson with Lions Foundation and Proud Alliance with a grant to start a plant nursery. And Proud Alliance promotes the progressive utilization theory, which is basically like a vision for a new economy based on cooperatives and local food systems and fulfilling the basic needs of everybody. So what we did is we grew seedlings and distributed them for free, and we call it Seedlings for Sovereignty. This was an awesome project, and what I realized was that reestablishing our relationship with the local food and with one part of puzzles. Like, our visions of a society where we could buy our own food because we have good paying jobs and cooperatives. And also, like, all the resources of a region could go towards meeting our basic needs, and food was one of those. So I feel like these co-ops they're creating a new economic system based on democracy that fulfilling our needs first, and so that we get all access to local healthy food. Okay, thank you. So the response was people responded really positively to the talk, like everything we talked about with Proud. The Democratic Socialists of America signed up for a newsletter. We talked with housing rights advocates, co-op developers. So I was kind of surprised that, you know, everyone was on board. Where everyone agrees we're in a crisis. Like the economic system's in a crisis. We need an alternative system, and they agreed with all the values of Proud. So that was really encouraging. That was just really encouraging. 12 people signed up for our newsletter, and looking around the room, we just everyone has the similar values, which was, and it just feels like starting to feel like the individual social causes were starting to converge together, and some of the major movements I'm talking with labor organizers and co-op developers from there, they mentioned that unions are now helping their members create housing co-ops, for example, and the environmental movement. They've really embraced social justice. They don't just want to transition away from fossil fuels. There's a lot of talk about, embracing of creating a just and fair society as we transition. And co-ops are emerging as a solution to achieve social justice. So I think we're in a really interesting moment with these movements where they're starting to converge together with this, similar vision. And I think there's a big opportunity for a certain type of community organizing. And I think this can be around storytelling, actually, telling a story about our common ground. So just a thought experiment. So instead of 3 Proutists, what if we saw all these activists working on the Prout movement? What if Prout was just another name for the systems change that is happening all around the world already, and that this is a natural phenomenon of these movements joining together. And so this is after the forum, this is what I've been starting to think more and more about. And I think it's a nice thought experiment, but I think it could actually change how we approach community organizing or help inform, especially around systems change. So I think we could first celebrate individual solutions, and that's like all these individual causes. We can affirm that we're not alone, and we can also communicate this to the general public, that there's a similar vision kind of emerging. And then lastly, we're stronger as one movement, building the possibility for coalitions and mobilizing to to be able to achieve political change. So the role of a systems change storyteller, I think this could possibly move from convincing about like a certain economic model, or whether it's socialism or Prout, or even like a bill like the Green New Deal. It could change to uplifting existing solutions, from self-promoting to cross-promoting, to being pioneers of Prout, to connecting an emerging movement of Prout. So I've been thinking, could the WESPAC Social Forum be the first steps to building a regional coalition, self-sufficient, democratic, socioeconomic unit? I say yes. And you could call this Prout, or it might just be what it is, and everyone has their their own perspective. So there's many ways you can get involved in the Prout movement. One is there's an economic democracy training in August. We would love to see you there. And perhaps Alex or someone could help, or just talk more about it. We also have business cards we created for the event, and you can talk with Prout Alliance to print these and be the storytellers of this systems change movement that we're a part of. Okay, thank you. I think I passed to Alex now.
Oh my goodness, I have to go after him. Wow. That was very well said, brother Wilder. I want to thank Prout Alliance for allowing us the opportunity to share about this special event, this social forum that one of our prominent members has personally, with her organization, worked worked over time to develop connections, and this is part of her organizing for her community. And for us to be invited to participate was a a very unique time. And I was invited by Nada to come for a few different reasons, I think. But one of them was I also wanted to support my young friend Wilder, who was really stepping up in kind of community organizing around systems change work, in my opinion, especially around his interest in cooperatives. So for me, I was not a presenter, I was not a speaker at this event. I was invited to sit at a table for Prout. I want to say a couple things about myself. I have been involved in a lot of economic and social justice organizing work over the past 12 or 14 years now. And I've been to many forums like this. One of the things that I think is remarkable about these areas and these spaces are the almost instant kinship of recognizing in others a unique characteristic of recognizing the dignity in others, the demand for justice for all, calling a spade in our communities. Why do we have to have social forums in the first place? We need to have social forums in the first place because most of the time, communities, the people themselves, lack forums to express their inherent interests. Politicians cater to special interest groups or elite economic groups. We all know how capitalism functions in our society to create a system of domination, subordination, and really usurping power from the real essence of what we would call democracy into the hands of just a few. So that we find ourselves in a situation where the call for justice happens at the margins of society, so-called, in our communities, in these living communities that stand up for folks that ordinarily, oftentimes, never see themselves reflected in benevolent policies that are supposed to be for community interest. So I have to say that being part of this movement and learning from individual organizers has been one of the more humbling experiences in my life. One of the interesting things is that seeing the extraordinary and hearing extraordinary examples in these types of settings isn't extraordinary. And I want to give one specific example with a young man that blew my mind, actually, in the workshop that Wilder gave his systems change cooperative development presentation. His name was Mike Capers. He was a young man who had been, I think he's African American. He had been in prison since he was in his mid-teens for a long period of time, and he came out and he found that there was no support network for people at all coming out of the prison system. And that it's a self-feeding loop of folks that are displaced from their community through the so-called corrective system. And what did he do with his life? He decided to dedicate a large portion of his energies to help out those who come out of prisons, to help out those needing opportunities, needing connections, needing to feel like they're human beings. I can't tell you how moved I was to hear his story and the work of his organization, which, again, it is exceptional. But in this setting, there are so many special people who step forward So it was a real privilege to bear witness to Wilder, his example of how he's stepping up, but also all this other incredible work going on in Nada's community in the greater Yonkers area. I think that was in Yonkers. So this is a Westchester Social Forum, but the actual convention, the Social Forum, was in Yonkers. Am I correct, Nada? Okay. I want to say a couple of things without going too far, and then I want to ask Mark Navis to say a few words because he was also a positive presence there. One of the things I am very self-conscious of in these areas is having kind of spiritual roots and also having a revolutionary ideology, if you will. An idea that it will take more than advocating for some policy shifts in government to beg decision makers to please make the right choice for us. That's the strategy that most of my experience in doing advocacy work has been engaged in, is helping get moral people in power and also to advocate for policies that affect real people in positive ways. One of the most important ways that this has happened is humanizing issues, putting a face on issues. Where social justice movements really take off is that they put in people's minds the human aspect of existence, our relationship to each other, and that the issues that affect the least of us show so much of the inherent values of the greater society. And when those values are so far out of sync from what ordinary people, how we live our lives, how we want them to, how we want things to be, why aren't we all rising up? This is like the sense I get in these spaces. I feel like, where is the role of the proudest movement to become integrated in these areas? And I feel as though for the Prout movement to become successful, it has to be an organizational approach and not an individual approach. And I felt that this was a baby step in the direction of an organizational approach. To have a public speaker, a representative of the proudest movement, speak at a workshop is a positive step. The rest of us, what we can offer, I think, is only a kind of a humble sincerity. And what do we have to offer other than our own authenticity and our own resourcefulness to be of use to others and to let the people who are most impacted help guide the conversations toward where we need to be putting our energy. So I feel sometimes that having a proudest hat and going to settings like this or the Left Forum or the various groups where you kind of come in and you go out, it feels a bit jarring to me because there's not a permanent connection, a permanent rapport. And when there is an opportunity to have an organizational connection, such as an offering of a recurring program or an offering of a special type of workshop, for instance, that could be focused on caring and nurturing the inner development of the individual as a primary metric for understanding the health of a social movement. I think that these things, as we begin to cultivate what we are offering to the group, other than presenting a theory, how can we engage and integrate our energies with a group? What do we have to offer? But more importantly, I think a lot of the time we have to sit back, listen, and learn. So thank you. Mark, if you have something to say.
Yes, I came not as one of the organizers of these presentations, but more as an observer. And one of the things that I was looking forward to observing and did was bringing Prout out. We talk a lot about Prout to each other, and it's time to bring Prout out. And Nada created a great opportunity to bring Prout out, and to have the forwardness of using Bhavanam Kevalam Kirtan as a part of an invocation, I thought was really phenomenal. There was no self-consciousness in it. It was like, here's a beautiful chant for peace. Wilder doing that great workshop on cooperatives. And then my opportunity was to sit at the table and talk to people that came by about the brochures and what we had. And I had a couple good conversations. But one of the big takeaways was how I observed other organizers operating. Quite a few didn't just sit at their tables at tabling time. One person from the table got up with a handful of brochures and visited the other tables and said, here's my brochure, here's what we're about, and tried to get and made sure everyone knew about who they were. They were reaching out into the community that was there because the activists were sitting at tables, so they went to the activists. So those were big takeaways for me, watching how other people who was experienced in bringing their ideas out, how they did it. And some of the speakers were, as you saw in that short video, very powerful. And as Alex talked about. So I came to learn, and I learned a lot. And I also learned that Nada is a masterful organizer and promoter of social justice.
Thank you so much, Mark. So I guess now we just wanted to open it up. Any comments, questions for any of the four of us?
Well, I would just say, Wilder, I think you nailed it. And I think I jumped ahead in the chat. You're like, oh, can you pick the 3 proudest? I'm like, they're all proudest. And then you're like, yeah, hold on straight. That's my next slide. And that's been my personal experience using the vehicle of economic democracy and my resonance kind of Spider-Man senses about new humanists and just kind of interacting with people who are just thirsty and starving for a structure to make sense of the madness to move us forward together. And so I think you nailed it with that that slide of moving from like the singular to the collective, which is how I describe it. I don't remember how you described it. So I think that's the time we're in, and it's exciting. So thanks for bringing that. And I've heard a lot about this from the sidelines, and it's amazing to hear it and like see it, front on with the pictures. And just I love that you all had the patience and fortitude to continue working together to make that happen as a collective. Like, seriously, kudos.
I guess a comment that I would make and to note that in many respects, this was a milestone event for Prout in this part of the world, that people were at a gathering, had table, was interacting, did presentations, marched in a parade, I think was just a vitally important thing. And you know, I think, you know, as Nada indicated at the beginning, social forums, I think may start coming back more and more because, you know, and Sri just kind of touched on it, more and more people are aware of the fact that what we've got just isn't working that great. So as people start coming together and sharing their ideas and what they're working on, I think it can start building, you know, a very broad collaborative movement, which I think is essential. So I guess I just want to applaud all of you who were involved in putting that together and doing that presentation, and Nada, for your work. You've been doing amazing things for a good many years, you know, and so I just applaud it and hope that others can be inspired by what you all are doing or did in this one event. I suspect you'll be back next year. And maybe, you know, people can start replicating this sort of engagement in their communities. You know, yeah, I think the biggest challenge for Proud is the sort of default for so many people of TINA. There is no alternative, because so it's got to become a known. I thought that was some great points. What if Proud were recognized as synonymous with some of the things that need to be happening in society? So again, I genuinely applaud and appreciate what you all did, and just want to note in passing that it was a milestone accomplishment.
Anyone else have any? Yeah, Doris.
Doris, yeah.
Hi, everyone. Well, I need to celebrate what you did because I went to the first 4 World Social Forums with Dada Maheshwarananda in Brazil and in India. The 4th one was in Mumbai, and we tried to do all the same things, but Portuguese and Hindi, I mean, besides. And what a beautiful opportunity, and it really shows the efforts of all the decades that you have built relationships where you live. And that's really the beginning of it. Thank you.
Nada, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How did that register to you? I just in this moment realized I'm so used to hearing you do amazing things that now it's kind of ordinary. And I love that about you and you. But I'm wondering, how did this event register for you on the spectrum of what you do every day?
Well, I mean, I was actually hoping for a bigger turnout because the last social forum, we had 400 people. So, you know, but again, that was the year before COVID. And I've noticed with all of our in-person, we haven't quite reached the numbers that we were having before COVID. But to be honest, I think part of why we did not have quite as many people is that we had some of the leading Palestine organizations at the social forum, and I think that was difficult for some of the groups in Westchester County. We had the Students for Justice in Palestine, we had the Palestinian Youth Movement there, and I know that would have kept some people away. Mm-hmm. So I was just really happy that we've never started a social forum. So the social forum movement is really based in a very secular type of social justice, and to be able to start the afternoon with kirtan, that was a milestone. Speaking of milestones, John, that was a milestone. And then to have Proudest there, and Proudest accepted. I mean, I had ladies that I know who are working on carceral system transformation, and they came up to me and they said, "Oh, who was that person sitting there at the Prout table? You know, you'll have to give me her contact info." That was Ambika. She was also there. You know, I had good feedback from the Proutists who were present, so that was really great. And I feel so part of my mission is I want to normalize Prout and Proutists in social justice spaces. You know, we are part of these movements for progressive social change. And I want people to start seeing us at different gatherings and forums and you know, and get used to us being there, and also get to a point where they sort of understand, oh, the Proutists are here. So, and the Proutists, they stand for this, this, and this. You know, if we can get to that point in the larger movements for change, that would be amazing.